Hello and welcome to episode 6 of Altered Geek Unlimited. I am your host as well for this week, actually, not as always. I'm running off of another script from another show. I am your host for this week's episode, Michael Powers. I'm also joined by the other host of the show, Steve Megatron Phillips.
Hello.
This week on Altered Geek, we've got listener feedback regarding 80s TV shows that you can't stand. We're going to dive a little bit into the Marvel movies because we've been kind of heavy on the DC side. And then we've got an excellent question. Wow, I really should have written his name down. Regarding the married geeks, what it's like to be, like maybe our wives should be answering these questions. But I guess it's more or less how we handle our wives being geeks, how we get them to understand certain things,
Or how they handle us being geeks.
right? Which again, I think that's a question for them to answer. So the listener feedback, we are recording this show 4 days early because Steve is going on a long overdue vacation.
Yes.
So the listener feedback, we've been reading all of the DC casting choices, and the feedback has been awesome. But we're gonna save going over the list until episode 7. So we're gonna jump into the feedback side of 80s TV shows that you liked as a kid but you can't stand anymore. Did we mention any that? I mean, I think this came up out of the fact that I said I have no geek nostalgia.
Yeah, I think that's how that came up, and I was like, well, there's shows that I can't watch anymore because they put me to sleep. Not that I don't like them, they're just badly written.
Yeah, I think that's it too. It's
or animated.
Right, but it's so like my fondness that I look back on like TV shows like G.I. Joe or He-Man or something like that, like those memories I had of watching it and enjoying it as a kid, those are still there. So I still treasure them. It's just that I cannot stand to watch them anymore.
You can't enjoy them as an adult.
No, cannot.
Yes. And that's kind of how Transformers, the original, G.I. Joe, I pretty much watched just about every 80s and 90s cartoon. So, I mean, it's there's a lot I can't watch anymore because they just kind of like put me to sleep.
I think for me, the one, before we dive into the listener feedback, the one series that seems to transcend the time for some, and obviously this is not an 80s show, but Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you. Actually, most of the DCAU I can pretty much watch to this day.
Well, but on
most of it.
On that side though, like the writing in Batman the Animated Series and Superman the Animated Series and Justice League, blah 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 blah, the whole the Timverse, the animated series stuff, the writing is all really solid, but the animation evolved a lot from Batman the Animated Series to Justice League Unlimited. Like some of,
yeah,
in my opinion, while the series is still good, Batman the Animated Series, some of the early animation is not what I remember it being when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember I watched it recently, well, within the last couple of years. I got my wife to watch it. And we really enjoyed it, but like the first volume set or whatever was just like,
yeah,
that was a chore, man. I was like, oh man.
Some of the episodes are, and I've been finding that out as I've been going through, because in Legends of the Dark Knight, another podcast that I host,
what do you do?
Mike Blanchard podcast? And I are going through all the episodes, like the entire series of Batman the Animated Series, doing all the animated films from the animated series, the DCAU, and then we're going through to Batman Beyond. We've already finished all of Batman the Animated Series through the New Adventures, and then or the Adventures of Batman and Robin, and the New Adventures of Batman and Superman. And it's The first season is kind of a chore to get through, depending on the episodes. It kind of gets better as it goes, but there's certain
Mhm.
episodes that are just so bad that I could probably put together all 4 volumes and make one volume set that's actually something worth watching.
Right, and but like I said, I think that that's one series that in my mind transcends everything because it started in, forgive me here, I'm not
92,
okay. It starts in '92, and it wraps with Justice League Unlimited in 2004,
2005.
five. So yeah, that spans like 13 years
Yeah, and you
of
have all of the DCAU in between there.
right, and so it's like it just got they kept refining on a look, and they got it, and it works. It's just when you start at the beginning, it's just really rough. Now that said, a lot of these other shows that people mention um were strictly for the most part from '80s, except for one that
A few.
Jason Ritter mentioned that I just can't agree with. But we'll get to that. Dan, another contributor to Geekcast Radio, Movie Revolt. Some people might know him that way. Says, I can't really watch any 80s kids cartoons. They all appear cheap to me. I tried watching some of the old G.I. Joe on Netflix, and I could only make it a few minutes. Besides 80s stuff, I also tried watching Reboot, and that has not aged well. The first season, at least. Cannot blame them, as CGI has come quite a long way.
Well,
I can't disagree with what he said.
I can't disagree with them at all. That's where I'll leave it. But being I have Reboot, and the fact that it was the first mainframe animated television series and the first CGI cartoon,
Mm-hmm.
it was monumental to everything that's come since.
Right.
But I will agree that the CGI has not aged well in that show in the first season. It gets better as it goes. Definitely by the 4th season, it's much better. But by then it had kind of tapered off, and there's been kind of rumors of them trying to resurrect it, but I doubt it. But for me, I think the best thing to come out of Mainframe at that time period was Beast Wars, and they had a nice evolution between that and Beast Machines, where the art just got really refined as it went along. Real edgy, dark, shadowy. I mean, they had all kinds of elements that weren't there in the first season.
Yeah, I think I don't remember watching Reboot that much as a kid. It's weird. I didn't have access to a lot of like when Reboot and stuff was on, and like the Spider-Man show that gets mentioned later. I didn't have like wasn't like a normal kid on Saturday morning where I could get up and watch cartoons. My dad was like, "We're gonna get up and go to the library," and I was like, "Damn you, Dad! I don't want to go to the library." But no, that's where we went, and so I never really got to watch any of these. So I don't have I don't have the nostalgia for them. Um, but I did recently, well, back in like 2009, so it's not really recent, but I did watch Beast Wars. I can't remember if I downloaded all of it or at the time if it was on Netflix. I think I downloaded all of it.
It just went on Netflix last year.
Okay, so I did download it, but I can't. The only issue I had with Beast Wars was the writing because they tried to throw in like the computer terms, and those computer like I really can't think of a line off the top of my head, but Rhinox used them all the time. And it was like they worked in the mid 90s, but watching them like in the late 2000s, like it just doesn't play right. I'm like, that's not even a lot of stuff. That's
Well, like, he says, a lot of it, like they say, oh, slag, or they say blast, or some of that stuff, which is, that's still fine, but
it's a lot better
you
than Whiskers.
yeah, whiskers. But you have Cheetor going jumping gyros, or and oh,
I think
all kinds of goofy terms in there. But I mean, it works well with the show.
no, it does. I look, but like, I that's not what I was talking about. Was like when they were talking about like the tech side of something, they'd be like, it's megabytes of data. It's tons.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
yes. This show is megabytes of data. I'm sorry. So that, but I enjoyed it. I don't think I finished Beast Wars.
It gets better. Like the
Okay,
first season
okay.
is kind of rough cut, and they do start making ties to Generation 1 Transformers in that. And
That's
the nods that
why
they make are very good. Season 2 gets even more like they start renovating everything, getting everything a little bit grittier and less polygon shape type stuff. It's more smooth and refined, and then this third season gets kind of they start adding water into the elements of things, and they start
I think I watched I stopped somewhere in season 3.
season 3 is great. Like it goes back even to the Ark and the Nemesis from Generation 1, and
Okay,
you have Simon Furman writing the very last episode.
Sorry.
He's a well-renowned Transformers comic writer. Marvel.
Yeah, I think I made it somewhere into season 3 and I stopped. So yeah, I mean I can see the computer animated stuff that was like pioneering computer animation for TV. I can see that, and some of the dialogue in those shows being that they're tech oriented, might not play as well, especially Reboot. I wonder how well does like the dialogue.
Reboot is badly aged.
Okay.
It's bad. Like I have a hard time watching it to this day. Like to enjoy watching it, it's like watching Transformers Generation 1, but in like the CG equivalent of animation. Like it's not very good.
Okay. And yeah, G.I. Joe, all those, the G.I. Joe, Transformers, the animation in them does look, I do agree with it looking cheap, because
yes,
it's not, I mean, it's just obviously the animation processes just weren't there that we have
now. It's so refined nowadays.
Yeah. And that's, sometimes that's a good thing. And I think a lot of it, again, sometimes it's a stylistic choice, the way something looks nowadays, more so than, I don't know, kind of like retro, like current gen games being like using pixel art and getting callbacks to like retro stuff. I don't know. I just went way off the rails there. The next comment we have is from Jason Ritter. Thank you for writing in. He says, and this is the one I can't agree with, because this is one of my favorite shows. He says, my cartoon, don't know why I was a fan of it, is Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. I'm trying to figure out if he doesn't like Foster's, or if he just can't figure out why he was a fan. I'm sorry, I didn't read his comment before.
It's like he doesn't understand why he was a fan of it, but he likes it. Okay. Or liked it at the time.
I love Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, but I like I like Greg McCracken and Jendi Tarkovsky and all those guys over at Cartoon Network. Like the guys that made Powerpuff Girls, Dexter's Laboratory, Foster's, Samurai Jack,
Johnny Bravo.
Yeah, no, I like all. I
love all those old shows. They just don't make them like that anymore.
No, they don't. He also goes on to say, I am also not a Power Rangers fan, and I watched it as a kid, but nowadays I remember it being really goofy. When I watched it as a kid, I was half and half on some episodes. I really liked, and I watched 2 episodes that I hated, and I never watched that show ever again. So that's why I'm not a big fan of it anymore.
That's one of those shows that really doesn't age, only for the fact that it still looks like it came from the 90s.
I'm tempted to like give it my 1-2 try for like TV shows, just like the first 2 episodes a shot.
There are seasons to watch, but I would say to consult Scotty Cash.
Okay.
Who's pretty well known for his From the Command Center video and audio series. He pretty much knows what's kind of bad and good, but I can honestly say anything with Jason David Frank in it is pretty much good. Which is the original. He's the original Green Ranger.
How long does it take for him to show up in season? Is he even in the first season?
He's in the first season.
Okay.
I think he jumps in. It's not too far. I think it's like maybe halfway, if that, and then he's in it for the from then on until beginning of Turbo. But I didn't get into Turbo. I dropped out by Zeo, and
Okay.
He pulls back up later as an older like teacher figure in Dino Thunder. And
I was thinking I'd give it its my tried and true method of you get 2 episodes to get me hooked or I'm walking. So um
um,
maybe I'll try it tomorrow while I'm at work. So
I think there's like the Green of Evil 5-parter where
uh,
it's he's introduced, I believe,
aren't we getting ready to cover that?
in from the
Aren't they?
command center.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna do the commentaries on them.
Ah.
So yeah, they're getting ready to gear up for that. So
But yeah, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. I still love that. I have the entire season on my entire series on my computer. I don't know. I laugh a lot at that because the writing in it is so. The writing more than anything is really good, but I do appreciate the flat 2D art style of it. Um, do you want to read the next one?
um, I guess I can jump into Sean Alteriez, uh, who says, one cartoon I have trouble watching is the 90s Spider-Man. I don't hate watching it, just the animation appears so poor at times, it throws me off. Especially how they reuse stuff so much and the 3D animation looks so poor when it shows up.
I again another comment that I personally agree with because I tried watching it when it showed up on Netflix again and I just couldn't do it.
I I watched it when it was new.
Mm-hmm.
I can't watch it anymore.
Yeah, like this is one of the shows that was on Saturday mornings when I was trying to go to the library. My dad was taking me to the library, so I caught a couple episodes here and there, and just like on the last episode, I mentioned the neighbors up the street they had all the Spider-Man toys, so I played with all their Spider-Man toys. Um, I just I can't watch. I tried watching it again because I now what's unfortunate is this just goes back to the animation process is better like Spectacular Spider-Man, which came out just a couple years ago. um
Hmm.
that uses a hybrid mix of like animation and some CG, kind of like the 90s Spider-Man did, but it's really good. It looks really good. And the writing was top notch too. And that got canceled and it got replaced with Ultimate Spider-Man, which is also really good, but you have to have some place in your heart for the Teen Titans cartoon show.
Eh.
See, I have that small spot in my heart for the Teen Titans TV show because I didn't think that it was like continuity with the DCAU. I was actually able to just like sit down and watch it for what it is. And I also like, even though Teen Titans is not anime, I I enjoy anime, so I was able to enjoy what they did in that series. Plus, my friend kind of explained to me how the seasons worked, and that made everything a lot better. But I, they have that same kind of off the wall humor because it's Peter Parker as a kid, and they're trying to show that he's got like this crazy imagination and kind of like where his quips come from. So sometimes when he makes fun of like a villain, as he is wont to do, they will show the villain in the context of which he made fun of them. um
Nice.
and it's humorous. It grates on you. It grated on me a little bit in the beginning because I was a big fan of Spectacular Spider-Man, and this was not Spectacular Spider-Man anymore. They just had a really funny episode with Deadpool. So if you take like Teen Titans and you throw in Spider-Man and then you throw in Deadpool on top of that, that was a crazy episode because Deadpool is known for breaking the fourth wall in the comics because he knows
Mm,
he's in a comic book. Well, now
nice.
he knew he was in a TV show.
Nice.
So, um, but yeah, if you like Spider-Man at all, I would suggest checking those two series out. But do agree with the look of that show being for the most part unwatchable. And what really bums me out is with a lot of these things, kind of like with Batman the animated series, the animation improves over time, but the beginning of it is so marred in subpar animation, it makes it hard to get to that spot. And I don't like skipping ahead in a series.
No, and a lot of times it makes it difficult to want to watch it to get to
So,
that point.
right. Um, do you want to read Thomas Blake's list of
Yeah.
shows?
Yep. We received his by email, and yes, we got some of the other ones, which were mostly about the DC stuff, which again we'll cover when we get to episode 7. Uh, but this one in particular was his list of shows from his youth that he can no longer enjoy. He has the 1987 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, G.I. Joe, Super Friends, Filmation's Ghostbusters, He-Man, She-Ra, Mask, and all the Super Mario cartoon series.
Now, is the Filmation Ghostbusters, is that the Ghostbusters that spawned the toy line?
I don't know. I'm not familiar with that one. I know that there's the real Ghostbusters.
Okay, so this isn't, that's what I'm thinking of. This is not
This
the
is
real
a
Ghostbusters?
completely different. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think this is the real Ghostbusters. I could be wrong that he might be. I think Filmation may have done that too, but I don't know.
Okay. Well, you'd think one of us has a computer in front of us. We could look this up.
To the Googles.
Yeah. Let's see here. I guess you can. You're probably faster than I am. Let's see here.
Filmation Ghostbusters, 1986 series. It's an animated television series created by Filmation. It's following the success of the Ivan Reitman Columbia Pictures 1984 Ghostbusters. It is not to be confused with the animated show The Real Ghostbusters, which was based on the 84 film. This is based on a live-action television show from the 1975 The Ghostbusters.
Oh, okay. All right.
So
this has,
it's different.
okay. I've heard of this, but I've never actually seen it.
Yeah, I've heard of it as well, but I've never seen it. According to the thing, it's got like Pat Fraley, who voiced Krang in Ninja Turtles, and Peter Cullen, who's Optimus Prime, and
Okay,
RC
now
in it.
G.I. Joe we've talked about.
Yep.
TMNT, I have no way of watching those right now. But I would.
I have
to say
I have them all on MP or M4V files.
Okay.
So I'll get those to you.
I don't even know if you should try. Maybe you should just send me 2 of them and we'll start from there. I mean, again, this goes back to like I remember watching it all as a kid. I remember going to the video store and renting like the entire, like every volume they had on the shelf on a Friday night and getting crappy Little Caesars pizza and watching them all over the weekend in the basement. I just have a very funny feeling it's going to end up being just like all the rest of the shows. And this is one of the ones where I made the argument of like that I have no geek nostalgia, so I don't get irritated when the stuff gets rebooted or remade for now, because now I get to go and buy the toys. So I get, I said this all in the last episode, but this is one of those series. Like I have the current Nickelodeon, Michelangelo, Donatello, Leonardo, and Raphael sitting on top of my on my entertainment center. I display them with pride. I do not have them in a collector's case in a room somewhere else in my house. They are out for everyone to come and see because I like the Ninja Turtles. But I do like the new Nickelodeon series. I just don't know that I would like the 1987 series anymore.
The 87 series, I feel I could watch more so than any of the other ones on this list, or a couple of the other ones that we've mentioned before. I think I could watch this one over watching the Transformers cartoons, the 84 one, only because the animation seems a lot better than a lot of the stuff that came out of the 80s and some of the 90s.
I remember it's absurdly colorful.
Yeah, and it's not badly colorful because they do have a lot of different shadings and stuff. I would say that the animation is definitely stronger in the beginning than it is later.
Kind of like
only because they get really bright and colorful with a lot of things. Like they almost get kind of sloppy, and there's voice actor changes later on multiple times. It's It's good, but I've only actually seen through the fourth season because after that, that's when everything started spiraling out of control.
You know, the way you're describing the progression of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is reminding me of another 90s cartoon um that had the same problem that nobody, well, probably because we went for 80s, but I think we just said childhood shows, right?
I think
um
so.
it was X-Men.
Yeah, that got really bad.
That, yeah, I watched all of that back in 2004, 2005, before I got into X-Men Evolution. And man, the animation starts out fairly solid and then it just goes to complete crap. Like,
Well, and not only that, but it seems like a lot of these shows, the longer they went coming out of the 80s or very, very early 90s, if they didn't have a complete reboot or um, a point where they refined and started over but kind of kept the storyline kind of going a little bit, it seems like the show crashed and burned. Like the DCAU did it perfectly in the 90s.
yeah.
Every couple of years they restart kind of a little bit, but keeping the familiarity but upgrading things so that it was a natural progression. Whereas these shows seem to hang too long in the same look, and you got people that were bored or moved elsewhere, or it's like they kind of lost their way as the story progressed and didn't know where they were going.
Or it was a budgetary concern,
Yeah.
because animation isn't really cheap, and they probably wanted to keep. I think that's kind of what happened. It might have been what happened with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because it's definitely what happened with X-Men the animated series, because
Well,
it just got sloppy.
well, like the original voice of the Shredder in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was Uncle Phil from Fresh Prince.
Okay.
And after he got that show, the Fresh Prince show, he jumped off Turtles, and then they replaced him with a couple different voice actors, and Jim Cummings eventually ended up doing it, who is famous for like Darkwing Duck and Winnie the Pooh and Tigger and stuff like that. But and then they replaced Krang, a couple times. They replaced Raphael, which was Rob Paulson at one point. I mean, they constantly were replacing voice people on there, and then like the show just started getting highly convoluted at points. It was just it went down the crapper.
Right. And I think He-Man and She-Ra, they suffer from the same fate as G.I. Joe in my book.
I
It's
think
just,
those are honestly worse. I'd rather watch GI Joe than watch those, because at least
I can see that.
because I can imagine GI Joe as like one off little mini movies, whereas He Man and She-Ra I can't sit 2 minutes through, or Mask.
Yeah, well, I remember all the toys from Ask. I mean, again, I had access to all this stuff. My mom working Toys R Us and Kmart and stuff. I had like the entire collection of He-Man and She-Ra and Mask. But I got nothing for it. Like, and the sad part is I actually have nothing to show for it either. I don't have boxes with the toys, stored away in an attic somewhere. They either got passed down to a little sibling and they got destroyed, or they got sold at a garage sale or something. But
Like, I only have 3 GI Joe figures to date, and I bought them like within the last 3 years because they were like a 25th anniversary toy.
ah,
All of them Cobra Commander in various uniforms, and then Ninja Turtles. I have one original figure left, and that's the giant body Krang, which is badly damaged from
Oh.
wear,
you know
and it bothers me because you can't buy it except for like spending $85 to like $200 to get one in good condition.
that really okay. That story kind of bums me out because my friend does a Geek garage sale in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and the first time I went out there, he loves the Ninja Turtles and he collects them. Like, he's got
Mhm.
shelves of them in his basement. And I told him that I have that Krang that you're talking about, the big body
Oh,
Krang. I had it. The problem is it was in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles tub, and that got passed down to my little brother, and that tub has disappeared. And my mom doesn't know if it's just like stored somewhere in the house, or if he destroyed every toy and ended up getting thrown away, or if it was sold at a garage sale. But I had that Krang I had the Krang thing. I had the door for the the torso piece to
Mm-hmm.
keep him in the body.
The
All the limbs
brain.
were attached. The thing was like in. I mean, obviously it's not in perfect condition because it was in a tub getting banged around with everything, but all the pieces were there. I can't find it, and I keep telling you if I ever find it, I'm gonna give it to him, but I can't. I'm never gonna find it.
Yeah,
Um,
I have that. The door's gone. One of the limbs is missing off Krang's brain himself.
aw,
I don't have any of the weapons, but yeah, I still have most of it. It's just not great condition. So if I ever find any of the components, I'm gonna put it back together.
it's battle damage, Krang.
Yes, it's battle damaged. I used permanent marker to repaint some of the paint on it back in the day.
Now the Mario cartoons, I have never seriously watched any of it.
They're
Um,
bad.
and this is what's being covered in Pixels in the animation.
Yes, that's what they're covering right now, and it's
Okay.
it's a travesty to even listen to it. I'm sorry, Mike. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, TFG1. It's I can't
Okay.
help it that show is so terrible. Like not Pixels in the animation, but the Mario Brothers that they're covering.
But if you're a fan of the Mario Brothers stuff, you should check out that show.
That is true.
um, and then we've got one last one. Um, it's from
X51, the Machine Man.
who is Art Danner, my co-host over on Off the Cuff.
Okay, that explains a lot.
Yeah.
I was like, who the hell's this?
Yeah. He says, TV shows I can't stand that I loved as a kid. Thundercats, Alf, Small Wonder, and Voltron. Do I know what Small Wonder is?
I don't even have a clue. I've never heard of that. I know what all the rest of them are.
Yeah.
I've seen them all.
Thundercats I agree with, but again, well, actually, I can't even say again because they had the toy lineup, and I did kind of enjoy. I enjoyed the remake outside of the Whiskers.
Whiskers.
I enjoyed it outside of that, but I didn't go out and buy any of the toys. Maybe that's why it got canceled. Never actually. I know what Alf is, but I don't think I've ever actually seen an episode in Voltron. Voltron's been rebooted a couple of times, but I haven't watched any of the newer stuff.
It gets canceled every time, so it's not really worth watching.
Right. Do we find out what Small Wonder is yet?
It's a it's a storyline revolves around Vicky, an acronym for Voice Input Child Identikit, an android in the form of a 10-year-old girl that was
Okay.
built by an engineer inventor. Yeah, in an effort to assist handicapped children, is what it's.
I have never heard of this.
Yeah, it says
When was it on?
1989
Okay.
or 85 to 89.
Oh.
And they said in the little description, this is to explain the child actress aging process during the show. The series producers gave the Vicky character an upgrade in the series' third season to age her and dress her in more modern clothes and allow her to eat and drink. I was like, wow.
I don't even know what this is.
I'm
never
glad I
heard of
haven't
it.
seen it. Yeah, I'm kind of like, never heard of that.
Well, we are about 30 minutes in. Do we want to go into the Married Geeks, or do we want to do Marvel and then the Married Geeks, or do we want to do just Married Geeks and hold the Marvel for the next episode?
We could lightly
Or do we-
touch on Marvel first,
Okay.
then go into Married Geeks.
You know what? Why don't we just ask the question? Does anybody care about the Marvel movies anymore? Because Thor is coming up really quick, and I don't hear anybody talking about it.
I hear everybody talking about Avengers 2 and whether Downey Jr. is going to play Iron Man or like any further, or they're going to kill his character or whatever. And
Yeah,
I don't hear anything about Thor. I don't think anybody honestly gives a crap anymore,
I mean,
other than the Avengers films.
I saw the new Thor trailer today because I went and saw Kick-Ass 2 for a second time right before we sat down to record. I saw the new Thor trailer, and Thor looks like, visually it looks like the movie I wanted the first Thor to be. I did not like the first Thor. I thought it was I didn't feel like there was enough grit to it. Like everything was really pristine.
Yeah, I was let down by that movie. I didn't really like it.
But it looks like the new Thor, or the Dark World, it it addresses the concerns I have with the look of the first film, at least from what the trailer shows me. And the trailer was really impressive. There's just one scene in the trailer, and again, the trailer might not play. Unlike most trailers these days, where they spoil the entire movie for you from beginning to end, there's a scene towards the end in the trailer that could take place early on in the movie. So it's kind of like one of those things. I still got to wait to see um, how the actual movie plays out. But going by what the trailer has shown, I am I I'm worried that that Thor is going to fall into the same hole that Iron Man 3 did for me, cuz
Okay.
I didn't enjoy Iron Man 3. Um I felt like it, and I take a lot of shit for this, but I felt like it I felt like Iron Man 3 should have been Iron Man 2, because it felt very isolated, and I kept waiting for either Shield to call Tony Stark or for Tony Stark to call Shield, because I fail to see how the president of the United States is Tony Stark's problem
Yeah.
and not a Shield Captain America problem. Um and over time, thinking about it, I really started to hate on Joss Whedon for killing Agent Coulson.
Yeah, he would have been perfect in Iron Man 3, showing up.
Right, because that's what, and that was what was important about his character in the lead up to the Avengers, is he was the guy that popped in for about 4 or 5 minutes at a time, if that, just kind of popped in, gave Shield a presence in the movie, and that was it. Yeah, Iron Man 2 got a little bloated with the Shield presence and stuff like that, but he was the connective tissue between Captain America and Thor and Iron Man, bringing them into the Avengers, and they didn't have that in Iron Man 3. It and I'm worried that there's a scene in Thor that takes place on Earth, and it's kind of like, okay, if they're fighting on Earth, if gods are fighting on Earth, how is this not a
Shield's problem.
a shield problem, So it's one of those things. Like I said, it shows up at the end of the trailer, but if that scene takes place in the beginning of the movie, and Thor's playing like a defensive role, and then they get sucked out to Asgard, awesome. I'm just saying, the way that the trailer shows it is that the fight on Earth also, like, there's a fight on Earth at the beginning, there's the Asgard stuff, and then there's a fight on Earth at the end, and it just seems like if they come back to the fight on Earth at the end, and I don't know, it's I don't feel like Marvel's done a good job with their movies post Avengers, because they haven't answered that question of how do they not just pick up the phone and assemble the Avengers.
Yeah.
Um and I don't like Marvel's answer of, oh, just wait until Captain America, because that's where we're going to explain what Shield's been doing the entire time. It's like, no, I want your movies to stand on their own. It's fine that you have connective tissues to the other movies, but they should make sense and stand on their own.
Yeah, you should be able to watch Iron Man 1, 2, and 3 and not have to watch Avengers if you don't need to.
So I don't know. But yeah, does anyone
I kind of get that, though, that it's kind of getting convoluted at this point.
Or they're just getting sloppy.
Well, they aren't keeping anything cohesive, and I agree, Iron Man 3 should have been Iron Man 2. But I mean, yeah, it kind of, I mean, I know it's supposed to fit after Avengers, and he's supposed to have kind of lost it and created all these armors, but at the same time, it was kind of, I don't know, stupid.
Well, don't you feel like, just going back to the Iron Man movie for a second, right? Okay, so Iron Man 2 has the big shield presence that everybody hated.
Oh, it was huge. Okay. Shield presence.
But I didn't hate that. I like that. I like seeing all like the lore and Tony Stark's dad and all that stuff. And I feel like if Iron Man 3 had been Iron Man 2, so you don't have to worry about your shield presence.
Yeah.
But Iron Man 2 had been Iron Man 3,
That would have been a logical progression.
Right. Tony's got the ego complex going on. You know, he's like got the kind of got you rearrange a couple scenes and it makes sense. You know, Tony's got the ego complex going on in this world where he thinks he's all that, and then Shield comes in and he gets drunk because he took out, you know, he flew through a portal and with a nuclear warhead strapped to his back, and that's why he goes on this like drunken spiral of like going all crazy and stuff, and he incurs the wrath of Whiplash, and you know Shields comes down and puts the smack on him. Would anybody have complained then? No,
No.
because Shield would have been monitoring him. Like,
Whereas Shield didn't. Like, Shield would have been monitoring the fact that he disappeared off the face of the earth and the fact that
yeah,
these guys are creating these super soldiers.
yeah, like I think in it goes back to the Coulson thing. One phone call, like you know Maria Hill or even just Samuel L. Jackson, like they didn't have to show them. It could have been like when he was checking his voicemail
Well, they
messages.
could have just phoned it in.
Yeah, like it could have like I said when he's checking his voicemail messages, or like someone could have called him, or Jarvis said, "Hey, Shield's been trying to get a hold of you, sir." Uh, like something that didn't make his world seem so small. Clearly, after the world has gotten so much bigger,
Yeah.
would have, in my opinion, just would have helped that movie. And like I I like the movie. I just feel like not having that kind of just wrecks it for me because I was looking for it the entire time. I was like, how does this exist in a post Avengers world? How are they going to do this when you know he knows about gods, and they do kind of address the gods and they do all address all that stuff, but it's like Shield's no longer monitoring him anymore, and they're not asking him to save the president. He's just making it his responsibility. I just I don't
Yeah.
know. The setup just really kind of irked me about it, and I'm worried that the same thing's going to happen with Thor. But I guess the overall question here is: does anybody still care about the individual Marvel movies, or do we just want Avengers 2? Like, I mean, and I've heard good things about Thor and Captain America too.
I
It's
honestly
just
think at this point, I think people would rather just see them assembled. I don't think anybody honestly cares about the individual films at this point. I mean, yeah, it was great introducing them all, but I think after they finish, the Captain America 2, Thor 2 stuff,
Cat's having
um,
fun back there. I'm sorry.
yeah, she's losing her brain. But yeah, I think at this point I think they just need to stick with doing the Avengers films and stop doing the individual ones.
Right. Um.
And that's probably why DC is kind of glossed over the fact that all this, Marvel stuff is going on with their whole Batman and everything else that's been going on.
I don't know. I still think the individual DC movies, especially like the Nolan trilogy, I enjoy those movies more than any of the Marvel movies. And I'm just gonna go ahead and say I didn't like the Avengers. I mean,
I like the Avengers for the dynamic of the characters that they had in it. The overall story, some of it was lacking, but I overall enjoy like the interactions of some of them and how
well,
they got, like, even the Hulk was done properly in the
yeah.
film.
Well, let me try to rephrase that. I I enjoy the Avengers. I do not pile on the praise the way other people have.
No.
I I don't understand why it gets all the praise that it gets, but I guess I do like it. I do like the movie. I just don't get the praise. Like for me, it's a good movie. Like there are movies that I like way more than the Avengers. Um, it's just, I mean, I'm pretty sure if I was making the top 10 list, Avengers wouldn't even be on it. So, um,
Hmm.
but I'm not a Joss Whedon guy. I love Firefly. I love Serenity. I could care less about his other stuff.
Well, the only thing I like that he's done is the Avengers. I don't really much care for him otherwise.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to the Shield
Yeah, well,
TV show, but that's it. I
yeah,
think it's going to get either canceled really quickly or it's going to last a couple seasons and they're going to end up dragging it out, and eventually, they're going to have to include somebody from the Avengers films or it's going to die
or
off.
or it'll go the other way. Someone from the show will go to the Avengers. Will go to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They exist in the same thing, and
Yeah.
supposedly, the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon show and the new Avengers cartoon show that's coming this fall are
Or
part of
same
that.
continuity.
Yes.
Okay.
Um, Funny, a little bit of trivia. Agent Coulson is the principal at Peter Parker's school.
Oh, that's funny.
He's undercover. It's Principal Coulson.
Nice.
Um, but he's yes, and it's the same voice. It's the same guy.
Oh, that's really cool.
So it's pretty. And Stan Lee is the janitor of the school. So
He was the janitor and something else, I think, wasn't he?
honestly, I can't remember all the cameos he's had.
Yeah.
So, but that's all we can say about the Marvel movies right now. That that I want to say right now. So, but let us know what you think. Are you guys still excited for the Marvel movies? Would you rather just get to Avengers 2 and be done with it? Yeah, the other thing is, Thor and Captain America weren't the blockbusters that Iron Man was.
No.
So
Well, Iron Man's been like the entire anchor of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
yeah. So we'll see.
And
see
much
what
like
happens.
much like what DC's trying to do with Superman, but it's going to ultimately come back down to Batman
Right.
because that's really the only thing that they can bank on.
Well, it might not. We have yet
It
to
may
see
or may not pan out. That
But yeah,
remains to be seen.
we have yet to see if it will be bankable because
Yeah.
it's not.
There's a lot of ifs going on.
Yeah. Anyways, um, married geeks. Uh, How do we want to tackle this? I've been kind of thinking about how to tackle this. I mean, okay, I guess we can start from the beginning, right? When you first met your wife, when you first started dating, did you put it out there that you were a geek? Like,
She, I think, could kind of tell because one, I always had CD player for one, like, and I was always like jotting down website crap. So, or I've always been referred to as the IMDb mobile edition
okay,
because I know crap that most people don't. As far as who's in what, I memorize all kinds of films. I don't try to; it just kind of happens.
well, yeah,
So, yeah, she's always known I've been like a film geek, a cartoon geek. Um, I collected toys up until like 6 years ago, off
so
and on.
what's the
So
extent of your geekiness then? Like I maybe we should have started there. Like, what's the extent of the geekiness that your wife has to or had to deal with? So they have
the
some kind of
extent,
basis.
uh, well, I mean, for instance, doing these podcasts and doing all this kind of content, that's one of the things she kind of has to, I would say, put up with from time to time because, not gonna lie, sometimes she gets annoyed that I do these 2-3 nights a week.
Yeah, but now you have a successful one.
True, still drives her nuts because she's like, "You're always on the computer, blah blah blah." Or I always want, like, for instance, the other geeky thing is I always want something more that's additionally geeky. Like, for instance, I see a video game I want. I'm like, I want it. I see a DVD I want it. I see a comic. I see a toy. I see a piece of electronics. My geekiness ranges from owning DVDs of stuff that I probably won't actually watch all that much and could settle with Netflix or other alternatives, or constant upgrade of my machine, buying comics. Just I mean, it's all different ranges, but I guess before I get into any more of that, I guess you go ahead and mention some of yours.
Yeah, actually, I'm kind of the same way. I read a lot of the tech stuff. I follow a lot of the tech stuff on Twitter. I love movies. I have, I'm a big video gamer. Obviously, just for funsies, because I was really bored a couple weeks ago. I went through and did a rough estimate of how much I spent on gaming this last generation. Um, which rough estimate here, and obviously people spend more or less on this. But I have spent probably between 7 and 8 grand
Hmm.
this last generation, like alone. And that doesn't
Wow.
really that doesn't account for like digital games that I have on Steam. That doesn't account for all the iPhones that I've bought, because each one of those, you can play games on whatever, but that's also like a piece of gaming hardware, tech, whatever, what have you. Doesn't account for digital copies of any game that I may or may not have. So that number is actually it. I don't think it's more than 8,000, but it's probably somewhere in the middle. And I, for the record, I started dating my wife in 2008, and I didn't go full bore into. Um, I actually met her 4 months after I got my PlayStation 3 in the fall of 2007. So
Okay.
that's when I really like fell like into like the video game stuff that I'm in now. I've gone through 3 Xbox 360s,
Wow.
um, 2 PlayStation 3s. I've got a Vita. I've gone through 2 DSs. Or I've got a DS and I've got a 3DS and all the games that go along with them. Um, I love tech, just like you. I like upgrading my computer. Um I like upgrading my phone every year because I'm able to. So I do that regardless of whether I really need to or not. Um, I I'm a big movie guy. Just like you. I am obsessed, and it's probably because I'm a projectionist at a movie theater as well. But I am obsessed with TVs. Obsessed with them. Um, I yeah, I my wife and I bought a TV like a year and a half ago. Real nice TV. And I told her, I said, this one's gonna last. This one's gonna last. I did like months and months and months of research on it. And we went out and bought it and everything. And now a year and a half later, I'm going, I think I want to look at another TV. And I've got her thinking about it, thinking about it, thinking about it. Um, so yeah, I like all that stuff. So I guess the now I guess what the next logical progression of the conversation is, how do you get your wife to be okay with that stuff? Right?
Yeah.
Is that the next, is that
Yeah.
where you were gonna go next? Is how
Pretty
you get your wife,
much.
yeah, okay. Um so how do you get your wife to be okay with that, Steve?
Um. Well, like I've known her since 2003, when we started dating and everything, and then got married in 2009. And some things she'll let me buy, and then other things she's like, "You're wasting your money." Like in the essence of, I used to go out and buy pretty much every Megatron figure I could find, or like certain action figures, like specific ones. Well, most of that I spent money I didn't have. For one, didn't care about anything. I was just like, yeah, I'll just go buy it. And then, like to begin with, she was bailing my ass out all the time. Um, but eventually, I kind of got over the buying figures unless it was like specific things that I really, really, really wanted. But I've kind of dabbled in a little bit of everything over the years, but with her, I kind of have to pick and choose. She's okay with it if it's something that she can tell I really want, which she can tell is most of the time it's not all that often, because as I get into a new thing that I used to like, for instance, I've jumped back and forth between Transformers G.I. Joe, Star Trek, Batman, Ninja Turtles. Every time I start watching something that I had a previous nostalgia for, I get full force back into it. Like, because of Blanchard, I'm into Power Rangers again, which I don't know why, but I still, for some reason, the nostalgia glasses are on and I enjoy some of it still. So I actually went back and watched it on Netflix. So I probably will never buy the series in any capacity just because I can watch it for free on Netflix. But now I find myself wanting one of their Power Morphers. Just from the Mighty Morphin show, the original, the ones that they would hold in their hand like this.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
I know people can't see what I'm talking
Well,
about.
okay, you're helping me though, because now
yes,
I know
I'm
what you're talking
helping.
about.
I'm helping you get a
Of course,
visual.
I'm sitting over here doing a little circle thing.
It's like the Kamehameha or Hadoken blast. they hold the power morpher that comes off their belt, and
isn't
they
it
have
the
little
key?
power.
Isn't it?
It's the power coins.
Okay.
It's before the keys. But I like the Green Ranger and White Ranger, so I want that specific one. Well, the only way you can get that is the San Diego Comic-Con one, and it's like $300 on eBay. So I, of course, am not going to spend that kind of money. If you want the Legacy one, which has all 5 of the other Rangers, which I don't care about, you can get it at like Toys R Us for $60. Well, to me, that's $60 I could spend on something that's actually going to serve a purpose, like a game.
True.
Whereas a toy is going to sit on the shelf. Now, do I want it? Oh, yes. I would love to have that. I'm not going to lie. I would love to have it, just like the Ninja Turtles like communicator. I'd love to have that. Or like another Star Trek classic communicator. Like, I got at a phase where I was buying all the metal communicator pins. Or attempting to. Until I found out how much money they were costing. And then I was like, no, I'm done. Like the ones that they tap on their shirt or the other kinds. But I mean, every time I switch subjects, I want something new. Like I was at some point going to commission a mask of one of the Batman costume type things.
Okay.
Because I like the helmet. And I was like, well, that would be really cool to have.
Yeah.
I'm like, can I afford $250? Not really, but I would like to have one.
Have you ever thought about just going and picking up one of the Halloween cowls?
Those are not very good usually.
Yeah, but you're just displaying it, right?
No, I thought I would actually make a Batman costume out of it.
Oh, okay. Well,
so that's why I had the interest in the cosplay thing, only because I would never wear it other than Halloween. But I think it would be because the costumes are sufficient, but the masks are horrible.
Right.
So I would swap out the mask. That would be my extent of change, like doing a cheap costume. But like, I mean, that for me, that's kind of what it is. My wife kind of realizes that because like when Tron Legacy came out, I wanted one of the power discs. I mean, it was just stupid shit. Every time I get back into something or I enjoy something, I'm like, well, I have to have something related to that subject, like some kind of a nostalgia thing. So I'm constantly going after. So like specific things like my computer upgrade, she let me do that finally this year because my computer was at this point a dinosaur. It was like 6 years old, and that was only because 6 years ago I went behind her back and upgraded my computer, and then she's like, where the hell did this $350 bill come from in the credit card? So I learned never to do that again. But it's always nice to beg to the point of breaking down. I have to say, but it's specific things. Like, I mean, she let me buy my microphone for the podcast because she knew I would actually use it day in, day out. And I got the pop screen filter, and I got the webcam, which she got for me for Christmas, which I haven't done an actual video show with since I got it.
We're using it now.
My cell phone. Yes, I'm using it now, which is mostly for communicating with you, so it's like a in-room experience, but eventually I'm going to do a web show with it again. As soon as I can talk her into getting me a green sheet for the green screen. That'll come. I'm not worried about it. When I get a house, that hopefully soon. But I mean, yeah, there's to that extent. I mean, it's kind of, you have to weigh your options because a lot of the time wearing the Geek nostalgia glasses, you just want to buy crap that you don't have actual purpose for it. It's just gonna sit there, and you're gonna be like, why the hell did I buy this?
Right. So I mean, what do you do? Like how do you like do you is there like other do you make compromises? Like do you like placate
She's
her? Do you like I do notice that your weekends are dedicated towards your family, which is great.
Yeah, my
Um
weekends, I generally shut out the world. Like I will reply to some Twitter conversations. I pretty much ignore Facebook because my family has a lot of drama on there from time to time, almost on a daily basis. So I stay off there. But I pretty much try and stay off the internet on the weekends just so that I can spend time with my family. Because during the week I'm working, and then I'm podcasting, and then I'm going to school, and then so I mean it's already chaos. So I'm like, we'll add a few extra elements to the chaos, and it's
right.
fine. But no, I think that about sums up my end.
Um well, for me, I okay, I don't go. I think the turtle sets, the turtle figures that I've bought actually almost a year ago now. I bought those, and they I think those are like the last tiny thing that I've bought. Usually the stuff that I buy is grand, like in excess of $60 or more. Like I unless it's like the Lego architecture sets. I love the Lego architecture sets. I don't know if you've seen them. They're the
I've seen those. Those are
yeah,
actually really cool.
I love them.
If I had a room to display stuff like that, I would.
I have all the little like $20 ones, like the Sears Tower, and yes, I call it the Sears Tower. I will never call it the Willis Tower.
Well, it's like calling the for those that are local to the Flint area. There's this arena called the IMA Sports Arena, which is now called Pirani Arena. So all of us normal people call it the IMA still,
Yeah.
and it's like Pine Knob
Yep.
is DTE
Yep.
now,
Thank you.
but
Thank you for that one.
it's yeah, it when somebody renames something, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Plus the Sears Tower sounds way better than the Willis Tower.
Yeah,
But I have those little like $20 sets. My cats like to play with them. So now they're like on the top shelf of I don't display them anymore. They're in the green room that I'm actually recording in right now. Um but I've started calling my wife she's my justification meter. Um
hmm
Usually if I want something, um I present it to her. Hello kitty. This is going to be a hard conversation. um but uh I present it to her, and if and I have like a proposal. I say, I really would like this. It costs this much, and this is why I want it, and blah blah blah. And if I can present it to her in such a way that she doesn't roll her eyes or outright say no, I just go ahead and buy it. Because I've not only have I justified it to myself, because I already want to make the purchase, but not only have I justified it to myself, I have now over justification because I've confirmed it with my wife, and I can just go and do it. Um,
nice.
Now there are like a couple of funny little instances that have cropped up, mainly around cell phones and about the Wii U. Um, I I like I like cell phones. I have a family plan that has 7 lines on it.
Okay,
And I have both my parents, and I've got Allie's mom is on my plan. So that's 3 lines, right? Where that are adults, their parents. They all have iPhones, but they don't really care about getting the new iPhone, right?
okay.
So usually the way it works out is that my upgrade is either available for a new phone once a year,
hmm
or their lines are eligible for an upgrade. And what I'll do is like I'll go out and be like, oh, maybe I want to try an Android phone. So I'll go out and get the $100 Android phone on contract, try it out for 2 weeks, find out I hate it, sell it on Amazon for 300-400 bucks. Um, I just made $200-300 off the phone, but I locked in my parents to another contract. They weren't going to leave, there's no
Yeah.
harm in it. I've done that. Uh, I did that most recently. I keep trying Windows phones. I keep trying them out. I keep trying to find like the good Windows phone because I do like the Windows 8 operating system. I like the way it looks. It's completely different from. I feel like Android is too much like iOS, and iOS is my preferred platform of choice. That like when I've used an Android, it doesn't behave. It looks like iOS, but doesn't behave like iOS, and therefore it's like nails on a chalkboard to me.
Okay.
But the Windows 8 operating system is so different and it's fresh and it's just like, and I like the way that it looks visually. And I went and tried out most recently here. I was able to get a Windows Nokia Lumia 920 or something like that. And it was supposed to be like the flagship Windows phone. And I was able to get it for $50 on contract at Best Buy. My wife was like, you're not going to like it. You've had two Windows phones before this. It's not going to be a thing. And I'm like, yeah, but it's only like $50. I can give it a shot. I'll give it a fair shake. Blah blah blah. They've made a bunch of improvements and all this other stuff. I mean, I had it justified to me, but I didn't quite have it justified. I didn't have her quite on board with it. Long story short, I bought the phone. 4 hours later, I had an iPhone back in my hand. Literally 4 hours later.
Nice.
I threw the phone on Amazon and got $400 for it. I paid 50. I got $350 for it. That paid
Nice.
for my PlayStation 4. So
Nice.
now that's one where the justification didn't quite match up. And now recently I've brought up, building my own computer like you did, or the Wii U dropped $50 and I brought it up to her. I said, the Wii U dropped $50. I was thinking about picking it up again. And she goes, you've already had one and you didn't even like it. You sold it. And I was like, and I tell her, I said, I bought it when it was brand new under the promise that Nintendo would release games that I wanted to play in the first 4 months the system would be out, and Nintendo didn't deliver. I actually sold it right after the PlayStation 4 reveal to buy a Vita. I sold it for I got exactly what I paid for it. I sold it for what I paid for it. So I didn't lose any money.
Nice.
So got my Vita, which I like, but I don't play it as often as I probably should. But now all the games that I wanted the Wii U for in the first place, they're starting to come out, and they dropped the price $50, and I'm like, hey, I'm maybe after the PlayStation 4, once I pick that up, maybe I'll think again about picking up a Wii U. And she's like, no, not happening. You had one already and you got rid of it. And I'm like, yeah, but the games weren't there. She goes, so you're going to have a PlayStation 4. Like, you're going to be playing that. And I'm like,
That's true.
yeah, you're right. Like, and that's kind of the way it goes. It's like, it's, like the conversation we had at the beginning, like the TV. I'm like looking at a plasma TV, and she's like, well, a year and a half ago, I suggested we get a plasma TV. Why didn't we get one then? And I'm like, well, because at the time, LEDs cost less to run, and they draw less electricity, and this, that, and the other thing. And I was like, but I started looking into plasmas, and the power consumption on some of the newer models is almost in line with the LED TVs. It's like an $8 difference a year between the two.
Oh wow.
Like my LED TV, geeking out here, right? Because I'm a tech guy. The LED TV, if you run it for 5 hours a day, it costs about $12 a year to run it.
Wow.
And the plasma one, like at the time, plasmas were like $40 a year. Not that big of a deal, right? But I was like, $12 and $40, that can add up. But now the plasma TV that I was looking at is $20 a year to run. So I've never actually had one. I've always just stayed away from them because power consumption. Want to be eco-friendly, yay! But so I kind of had to jump through that hoop. Kind of had to get her to understand like why I was even looking at them. And I told her, I'm like OCD with like picture quality. And don't get me wrong, I have a flagship Samsung that's a year and a half old, and it's brilliant picture. And most of the time, I can't get her to see the imperfections that I'm seeing. I'm sure if I brought you over here and pointed out specific things to you, you would notice them and you wouldn't be able to unsee them.
Well, I think that it would also depend on what you're watching.
It does.
And my wife, when we pick out TVs, that's like those kind of like the general electronics, like Blu-rays or TVs. We always look at features or how it looks. And getting into the TV thing, we had one of our TVs start going because of warranty issue. Like it was in its extended warranty, and we paid $100 to upgrade the size, and ended up with another. We got a Samsung 51 inch plasma, and it we only got the Samsung, even though they were pushing the LGs like crazy, because that was their model of choice, because that's the one they get the biggest payoff for. But every LG we were looking at in that size class looked like crap compared to the Samsung. Like there were certain digitizations and certain color pigment differences that you could just tell that the TV wasn't as good as the Samsung that we ended up picking out. And the same thing goes for like Blu-ray players. Like recently we upgraded to a new we had an old LG original Blu-ray player, spent like $300 on it when it was new. The most advanced thing it does is stream Netflix and YouTube. I mean, it'll play like burn discs and all that kind of stuff and everything. Or I can hook up an MP3 player and play through it like a stereo system. But we just got a Sony one, and it has all these other like media sources that you can stream to, plus a USB port that I can plug in an external hard drive and play media files. Now, granted, they're like specific media files, but it's still, we went for features, and so I mean that's one of the few areas that she gets geeky with, just because she wants to make sure she gets something that it's not gonna, outlive its usefulness.
Oh yeah, I mean those are like that's like the icing. If I can't like explain to her like through the way that I am about something, if I can't get her cat's chasing its tail. I'm sorry.
It's like, damn thing.
Anyways, that's one of the things that I do is like if I can't get her on like there it is. Sorry for everyone at home.
He's watching my cat over the webcam behind me, jumping around in circles, chasing her cat or her tail.
Anyways, stop trying to steal the show.
She does that in my video show.
So yeah, I go after my wife with the features. I'm like, yeah, we can stream, I can hook the computer to this and we can like stream the shows over this, blah, 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 blah. I do that. Like if I can't get her on something, I can usually get her hooked on something else. But it's like I can't really get her to, I got her to bite at thinking about getting a new TV. So I've started diving down my OCD rabbit hole, crawling all over forums, looking at reviews and all this. I've narrowed it down to 2 TVs, and for anyone that cares, it's a Panasonic ST60 or a Samsung F550 or 5500 F5500. They're both 60-inch TVs. I spent 6 hours yesterday crawling the internet. Just my tunnel vision was on. I was just like, but that's what I do when I start researching stuff. I go in, I jump in both feet. That's probably more annoying to my wife than wanting to buy stuff all the time. But yeah, video games, she doesn't have a problem with me going out and buying, because my wife is a gamer, and I think that helps out a lot.
Yeah, I would definitely say so.
Like my friend Danner, his wife doesn't game. My friend Jason, his wife doesn't game. So it's kind of, I'm presuming your wife doesn't game.
She's not really a heavy gamer. Like she'll play, like she likes things like Donkey Kong, Mario.
She seems like she might like a game of Drunk and Seen It, but that's just me.
She likes Seen It, except for when I beat her.
Okay, well, like
So we don't play those games too much anymore.
well, Danner's wife like seen it as well, but she doesn't play any like the other games. So it's kind of hard for me to like get some of my friends on board with, oh man, there's this great multiplayer game. We all need to get a copy of it. They can't go out and just get a copy of it because they have to like run it by the wife or something like that. But Allie, my wife, she is a gamer too. She likes her games. She buys games all the time. I buy way more games than she does. I buy games that I don't even play. I mean, I've got games in my entertainment center that's still in the shrink wrap. But it helps a lot that she is a gamer. Because like I said, I spent almost $8,000 in the time that I've been with her on games. And she never once like pulled the whole thing like, oh, you can't get that unless you get me like an engagement ring or anything like that. No, I don't know. I just asked her to marry me because well, obviously because I love her, but it wasn't like you need to ask. It wasn't like we ran into one of the situations where it's like before you drop $600 on a new computer or something, you need to, propose to me. No, we've never had anything like that. There's never been there's never been like an ultimatum. Sometimes there's like compromises, stuff like that. But what's made it a lot easier with everything related to this is before we got married, we didn't have a joint account for paying bills.
Okay.
And after we got married, what we did is we got a joint account to pay bills. And we figured out the total amount of our bills and we split it right down the middle. And
okay.
we both have direct deposit from work, and we have our half of the amount deposited directly into the joint account. And then we have two separate accounts. She's got her own spending money, and I've got my own spending money. So we can pretty much all our bills are being taken care of by the joint account. So really, our money is ours to spend any way we want. But I still ask my wife. I'm like, is it okay if I go and buy this? I don't ask to buy games or movies or anything like that. But like, she's asked me, or I told her, I said, anytime I spend any more than $100, I'm gonna run it by you first.
Makes sense.
Not so much that I can't get it. It's just like, can I get her to not roll her eyes when I make a suggestion? Another funny little thing that I've learned over the last couple of years. I love going to Best Buy and going window shopping. Like looking at new TVs, just browsing the game section, looking at computers, hard drives, all that stuff. It's much easier to do that after I've either taken my wife to dinner or lunch. It's kind of like you don't want to go grocery shopping when you're hungry.
Makes sense.
I don't want to go geek shopping when my wife is hungry. Because it's like she gets angry. Not like angry, like she doesn't get like mad at me or anything. It's just like she's very uninterested in anything that's happening.
It gets a little agitated having to just look at stuff that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when we're there. I used to go like 3 times a week just to look at stuff because I like looking at that stuff. But has being a geek ever caused any problems?
I would say so. Only for the fact that over the years, I've spent a lot of money I didn't need to spend that could have been better spent on something else. Just based on like, now when it comes to gaming, I pretty much buy stuff that I know I'm going to play the crap out of.
Right.
Like, I'm still playing Arkham City, but in the bonus levels, just so that I can set random modifiers and skins so that I can pound people in there. But
man, you are a trooper.
Or like Unreal Tournament 3. Like I get set on these specific games and I keep playing them. So those she doesn't mind as much when I buy those, unless there's other big things that come up that I'm going to be spending money on. Now, there were times that she'd find out I'd go buy DVDs after work. Uh, I'd come home with them, and then she'd say, "Why the hell did you spend so much on DVDs that you're only gonna watch like as soon as you get it, and then it's gonna sit in the box for 6, 8 months?" And I'm like, "Cause I have to have the disc." And I mean, there's no logical explanation for it. I mean, there's certain movies that I'll get the okay for, like Star Trek. I know I'll be able to go out and buy that because she knows I really like Star Trek and I have all the rest of the DVDs. But it's certain things like that I'm allowed to do. Then there's certain times where I'll miraculously have a new toy or a new comic or something random that shows up, and she's like, "So when'd you buy that?" Or because she works at the bank, she can and pays our bills. She sees when I spend money. So if I don't want to incur wrath, I need to clear it with her first and be able to get her to understand why I need it. As long as it's all clear to begin with, I'm fine. But usually when I just decide I'm going to buy it and then a random charge shows up, there's not good times for me.
You can't hide anywhere.
No, I can't, because she sees all.
I don't think I've ever had. I don't think it's ever been an issue. My geek hobby, my geek lifestyle has ever been an issue with my wife. I think she's just got. I mean, it's not. I mean, I was like this before she met me. I mean, this is how I was when she met me. I love having nice things. There's this poster in my grandma's basement. It's actually just a picture. It says my tastes are simple. I like expensive things. And that is me. I like expensive things, but I also think that keeps me from buying excessive amounts of things.
Okay.
It's a way of limiting myself from buying a bunch of trinkets and stuff like that. Like, and that extends to everything. Like, I like expensive electronics. I like Apple products, for crying out loud. Like, it doesn't get much more expensive than an Apple product. I like expensive liquor. I like expensive beer. All that stuff, and it just that stuff keeps me from becoming an alcoholic, because alcoholism runs in my family. But I like the expensive stuff, which means I can't buy it. So don't have to worry about that being an issue. I mean, there's moments where she's been concerned about things, and it's more me just having a reminder that we're okay. This isn't it's not going to affect anything. Or I just have to keep reminding her our bills are paid. Everything's good. So now I guess to close this out, and if we didn't answer this question well enough, you can let us know. But if there's one piece of advice you could give him, a fellow that's going to be become a married geek, what would it be?
I would say probably to make sure she knows how passionate you are about the specific geek subjects or things that interest you that make you a geek. That way she can kind of understand where you're coming from and be a little bit sympathetic towards your cause of spending money on certain things. And the other part of that, I would say, is clear it with your wife first.
All right, yeah, I would agree with that. Just make sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming your wife knows she's a geek already. Your wife knows that you're a geek already, and that it's not like you're gonna get married and all of a sudden, oh, here come the comic books, and here comes the all the stuff that I'm collecting that you had no idea about. Yeah, just make sure there's an understanding there. Like I said, I've got the understanding with my wife. It's there's a limit. Like I said, anything like $100, I can just go ahead and buy. Just, I guess it just comes down to being a married geek can add a financial stress, an unnecessary financial stress to the relationship. Um, so I guess just as long as everything else is taken care of, financially, I'm fairly certain your wife should be okay with almost anything. I mean, if you're taking care of what needs to be, if you're being responsible, I guess,
Yes, if you're
then
being responsible.
yeah. And
But
I mean, I wasn't always responsible, but I've been my girlfriend, my wife met me um when I turned the responsibility leaf over. Because I used to be, I used to just go, oh, I want that, boom, I got it. Oh, I want that, boom, I got it. And then it kind of became, well, no, now I've got to work within limits. So it's kind of like, being a gamer, I will wait after a certain period of time, and this is that window. Usually, there's a window. It's like September, October, November. There's a window where I will make a list of games that I want that I won't buy, and I will wait for Black Friday.
mhm.
Um, and my luck the last few years, those games that I've wanted have been $20, $30 rather than the normal $60. So it's kind of like, I mean, even games that like come out in like November 1st. I mean, sometimes those are $20, $30 on Black Friday, and it's like, so. And I make a list of there's two lists that I make. There's games that I have to play, that I need to buy on day one, and then I make another list. So there are games that I want, but I'll wait and see what happens on Black Friday. And usually, what happens is I end up buying them on Black Friday, and then they end up sitting underneath my TV in shrink wrap. So I never needed them in the first place, but it's a good thing that I didn't spend $60 on them. Also, saving for a geek thing will go a long way, rather than just the lump, the lump sum up front. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, for example, I've been saving since March for my PlayStation 4. So, anything like saving for my PlayStation 4 is a lot better than me going out on November 15th and dropping $580 that we didn't have.
Yeah.
But now I've got, and I say 580 because I've got games picked out too. But now I've got that $580 saved, so it's not gonna kill us. It's not gonna cause any financial stress on November 15th when the stuff comes out, because you've saved for it. It's not like a big out of pocket expense. So yeah, just, I guess, plan ahead more when you're a geek. So
Yeah, definitely.
um, let's see. Grand Con.
Yes, we should talk Grand Con.
Um,
Uh,
we're gonna be kind
I
of
guess I'll let you
candid.
go first since
Well,
you set this whole thing up originally.
well, okay. Let's be
This
completely
whole
honest here.
interaction.
Yeah, well, this whole interaction, I'm not exactly entirely sure what we've gotten ourselves into. I know a guy named Mark who I met at the Geek Garage sale that my friend puts on, and he is starting a convention a geek convention in Grand Rapids, Michigan, called Grand Con, and it is going September 20th, the 21st, and the 22nd. You can head over to grand-con.com to find
Yep.
out more information about it. Um, my wife and I are going to be there probably all 3 days. I know you're only going to be there that Saturday,
Yes.
so I don't. I'm not. I mean, we're gonna have flyers for the website. Um, I'm not entirely sure. I haven't had any interaction with them outside of that. It's all been
I
uh
I've had a lot of interaction in between there. I know that there's going to be quite a few well-known gaming community people that have developed board games, and I know that it's real heavy in that. There's going to be people from I believe there's one of the producers from Geek and Sundry or something is going to be there. I believe is what I've heard.
Okay.
Um, in one of my interactions with him. There's also going to be quite a few comic book writers that are there, and authors of fantasy books, like the um, creator of the Forgotten Realms fantasy world fiction. Um, Various other media publishers and stuff. So I mean, it's going to be kind of a mishmash of media, artists, game publishers, authors, from all different areas. Like some of them from Michigan, some of them not. Um,
And
but
this is the first year of the show too.
yes, the very first
Um,
year of the show. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of stuff that's transpiring this year that will follow with new things and different things next year. Um,
like maybe what we're able to do next year, because I think that's one of the problems that I'm having is I've never been the only thing close to a convention that I've ever been to, and it doesn't really count as a convention, is the International Auto Show, which is obviously a completely different experience, right? um
yeah,
I'm interested to see. I almost wish that, like, I'm glad that we're going. I almost wish that we were just like, for our help. I almost wish that we were just I think we should. I sometimes I think that we should just go with our shirts and like hang out and have a good time and just see what it is, because I don't even know what to do. Like, that's one of my fears. It's just not knowing what what to do. It's like,
that well, that's one of my things too. Being perfectly honest, I have only been to two conventions in my entire life.
but never as Geekcast Radio, right? You went as
No.
a fan.
The first one I went was a Star Trek convention in like '94. At
Okay.
It was like the Holiday Inn Gateway Center, um, out in Grand Blanc, Michigan. I met John Delancey there,
Okay.
which I also got to talk to him again for Geekcast Radio, and
Did he remember you?
well, of course not. But I brought up that little tidbit, and he's like, "Yeah, I remember you, haha," or something like that, and like, I was like, "Oh," I think it turned awkward in the conversation, so I was like, "Edit." Um, so there's also that, and I went to the Transformers TF Con in Mississauga, Ontario, Canada last year, and I went representing myself, like, and then somewhat Geekcast Radio, because I ended up getting on a conference call with TFG and Mike at one point, standing in line for an autograph from a voice actor, and I ended up meeting a lot of people involved with the Transformers community that I've talked to online. Some guys back when I used to do Predacon Empire, my Transformers site that's now defunct. I ended up meeting some guys from various other sites that were in the same kind of realm as what my site was. So people that ran those, and some guys that are involved in our Beast Wars Dark Glass fan video. But no, I mean, I've those are really my only experiences with them. And with TFCon, I mean, with the Star Trek one, they were all tables around in a room,
Mm-hmm.
kind of lined, and they were for different groups selling different things or different organizations and that kind of stuff involved with Star Trek. And then for the TFCon, they had little tables and booths throughout the convention center, and they had this one specific room that every hour there was a different show,
Okay.
different speakers that were guest speakers there. So I mean, in that essence, in Grand Con, I've been trying to figure it out, and I think they're still trying to sort it out too, being that it's the first year. That they have certain like events and seminars going on throughout the thing, as well as like I think a movie screening of, I want to say, Masters of the Universe or something like that. And I know that they're going to have various board game competitions. They're going to have, I believe, a LARPing thing going
Okay.
on.
I guess it should be.
But
This is a board game. Yeah, like you said, this is a board game heavy convention. Um,
yeah, and comic based. But I mean, it's going to be heavy in those. So I mean, I'm not exactly sure what our exact role will be there. I mean, I think if we find some interesting people, we'll try and get little tidbits with them, um, and maybe record something on the spot.
I have an idea that we can talk about when we wrap this up. But
Okay. But yeah, we will, myself and the off the cuff crew, you and the off
yeah,
the
myself and Art Danner, X51 the Machine Man, and Joe Reed will be there.
yes. So we'll all be there representing Geekcast Radio and off the cuff and Altered Geek. So if you're native to Michigan and you're going to be in the Grand Rapids area, it is on September 20th through the 22nd in Grand Rapids.
Now, little note from us. Steve and I have been toying with the idea of using Google Hangouts during our record for Geek or for Alter Geek Unlimited. I haven't gone too far down that rabbit hole with the research, but I believe it would allow you guys to interact with us via chat. We can invite you to the Google Hangout. You'd have to follow. Geekcast has a presence on Google Plus, do they not? If not, we should get one.
We do have one on Google Plus
because of Yahoo or because of YouTube.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, so what we should do, maybe in the show notes, we can put a link to the Google Plus, the Google Plus to follow, the Google Plus account, so they can follow it if they want.
Yeah.
And basically what it would allow us to do is, we'd be able to live stream it. You'd be able to see us acting like fools. And you could actually interact with what we're talking about via chat. We can answer your questions like on the fly. If that's something you guys would be interested in, let us know, because I like to try new things. I know Steve does too. We're just trying to find ways to interact with you guys more because we're enjoying the feedback. So that's the next thing we're going to look at is using Google Hangouts. When we're in there, will still be the show. The nice thing, my understanding of the Google Hangouts is immediately when the show is done, it will be exported to YouTube. So, and that would go on the YouTube channel, so you could watch us talk about what we've talked about, or you could still download the show via iTunes or geekcastradio.com. So it won't interfere with the regular Altered Geek stuff.
No. But it would be a fun companion thing to do, kind of gauge interest and see how that goes.
Right. Now, let's see. We've got 3 questions. Let's just throw them all out there.
Okay.
Three questions. Who did they come from, Steve? Did I delete that stuff? I deleted that.
They came from Plato Lament.
Okay. Number 1 is what are your all-time favorite movies? Let's limit it to, what do you want to do? 3, 5, 1?
Let's limit it to 3.
3. Okay.
Yeah.
Your top 3 all-time favorite movies. And then we've got what got you into geek culture? Was it like an aunt, an uncle? Did you trip and fall into a toy store? And the last one is, if you could only do one thing, comics, movies, video games, etc., what would you pick and why? And I think anyone that has listened to Off the Cuff will know which one I pick. So, Steve, where can they submit their answers?
Well, you can send them to feedback@geekcastradio.com. You can send them to the voicemail line, which we can also incorporate, which is 502-526-5821. You can go to the Geekcast Radio Facebook page, which is Geekcast Radio Network. You can submit them to Twitter @Geekcast Radio. You can go on the Geekcast Radio forums, which is forums.geekcastradio.com, and we'll have the episode post there as well. Or you can submit them on the main webpage under this post category episode post. Yes, it sounded all convoluted, but it was, yeah.
You can also hit us on Twitter using the hashtag #AlterGeek. You can find me on there at BoothNinja81. Steve?
I am at SCP21.
All right. Yeah.
I think that about sums it up. And as always, get altered, get geeky with the Altered Geeks.